saw that there was $90 million of interest, we went back to Northland went back to the investors and said, hey, we're going to raise the price on some of these bonds, which means the interest rate's going to go down. Your yields are going to go down a little bit. And that is in effect what we did. So we had originally estimated at these rates that you would receive into your project construction fund about $21.6 million. After we bumped all the rates, because of such a good result, the deposit to your project construction fund went up by about $150,000. So the actual deposit to your fund is $21,749,000 approximately. Costs. So the bond insurance was a decision that we had made and discussed with staff. The bond insurance costs to insure a bond cost money, cost $81,000 in this case. What that saved you was approximately $400,000 in interest. So it wasn't a super tough decision whether or not to purchase insurance. So you spent 81 and you saved about $400,000 in interest for that expenditure. So let's just I'll just sum it up with the interest rate piece of this. The average interest rate on this deal is 2.62%. So these bonds got a premium. You took the premium and kept it. That premium helps you buy down some of the coupon rates that you're actually paying. I mean, it looks as though you're paying 5 and 4% rates. You're actually using some of the premium to buy that down internally. And your average interest rate then ends up being 2.62%. And we were ecstatic about the result. The underwriter was super happy about the result. We couldn't have timed the sale better. If it was 2 weeks earlier, you know, you would have had a deposit to your project fund that would have been probably $150,000 less. So the result was super good, and we're super happy with the result. I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Well, let's see if we have any questions. Mr. Steinman, does any city councilor have any questions regarding the process moving forward? No questions from the city council, Mr. Steinman.
Super.
If there are no...
I will move that we approve the resolution for the bonds.
Moved by Councilor Johnson to approve the resolutions about the bonds being discussed today. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Councilor Baraboo. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
One question, when does the money go into the bank account? When does Sherry get to see it?
February 20th, Paul? Is that correct?
That's correct.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's correct. The closing date is February 20th.
Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Answer your question, Councilor Johnson. Very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I wanted to remind everybody that we did pass the reimbursement resolution. We have been expending funds for the miners project all along. We'll reimburse ourselves the money on February 20th.
And we have about 500,000 invested so far?
Expenses.
It's expensive, very good, thank you. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Steinman.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on a great result. Looking forward to seeing the final product. So, thank you.
Thanks again.
Very good.
Okay, we now reopen the committee of the whole meeting and move on with the regular committee of whole agenda. Britt?
Item on the agenda under Committee of the Whole is attorney update on the live barn venue agreement for broadcasting services.
And you have before you a document that was distributed by hand this morning by our city attorney, Mr. Lindsay, regarding this matter. I've had opportunity to review it, and any questions or comments once this document is reviewed, and the recommendation is given at the end of the document. So while you're reviewing this document, I just make one quick comment. I think it's no surprise that this is the conclusion that has been arrived on a recommendation by our city attorney. I think we all shared a concern with respect to this. So I myself is comfortable with the recommendation by our city attorney moving forward to find another way of providing this service under the city control. Councillor Johnson?
I guess I have a question for Brian, Parks and Rec Director, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, Brian Silber, our Park and Rec Director. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
Brian, could you clarify the process of how this came to you and then to us?
I had a couple of parents, hockey parents, approach me that they had seen Live Barn in other arenas, and they thought it would be something that would be good for us to implement into the minors. I had expressed to them my concern that we were only in our current building for this season and next season, and maybe looking at this for in the new building was better. When I reached out to Live Barn, they assured me that doing the install now and a year later was no big deal, so I started moving forward with this. This is all basically came from a couple of parents asking for it.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Any other questions for our Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber? Seeing none, thank you, Brian. Comments, questions by the City Council or Councillor Johnson?
I will move that we not move forward with this based on the recommendation of the city attorney for privacy issues.
I'll support.
Moved by Councillor Johnson to adopt the recommendation by our city attorney, Mr. Brian Lindsay, from the Trinity Law Firm with respect to this matter with Live Barn, not to move forward with this process. It's supported by Councillor Baraboo. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Baraboo?
Yeah, just a comment. Mayor, I believe that we need to continue with the open dialogue we have with, and the open viewing of different events at the minors with our current type processes that we've had through public access and through venues that we currently have. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I think we'll continue to do that as you, I think we're all in agreement with that, Councillor Baraboo. When the new building comes into effect, I think we'll continue to look at other vendor opportunities where the city maintains control of that environment based on the recommendations and the data practices issued outlined by our city attorney. Is there any further discussion on that? It's been moved and supported to not accept Live Barn's proposal and to abide by the recommendation by our city attorney. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And then, Brian, would you just make sure you communicate that back to Baja or the hockey parents that that's the decision we made? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the letter of understanding for the Public Works Administrative Assistant, and this is coming forward to you from the Personnel Committee meeting that was held last week, I believe.
Mary's been, this administrative assistant been moving between Park and Recreation and Public Works for quite a few years now, right? So
17 years.
17 years. Everybody have a chance to take a look at that and open it for comments or questions. I see Councillor Johnson's ready. Councillor Johnson?
Mayor. So can you clarify what's different? Why do we need this?
Since 2003, Mary's been coming in 1.5 hour early every single day, which recently, in the last 6 months or so, I've gotten 2 complaints from employees stating that it is not fair, that this overtime is not posted and it's not offered to everybody, which is completely correct. So we were trying to find a way to remediate the overtime from occurring. Speaking with the supervisor, Public Works supervisor, there is a need to have her there because she is the one who has the contract with the most public. She coordinates what's happening for the day, where they missed the garbage, where they need to go plow, where something might have occurred. So her being there first thing in the morning at 6:30 when they all report, it's integral to have her there to keep the system flowing as smoothly as it does. So we're trying to find a way to accommodate that without the overtime to be in there. Realize it's been 17 years and we've just got a complaint in the last 6 months, 2 complaints actually, which is complete. We're just trying to correct that.
So the union's in agreement with this and
Yes,
everybody's
yes.
on
We
board?
met with the Personnel Committee, I believe it was last week. Pam, was it last week? And the union was there, was present to discuss it as well.
Thank you, Counselor Johnson. Anyone else? Counselor Bearable, and then on to Counselor Freely.
I have some concerns over this. I think we'll be opening up a can of worms with this. This is going to be the first of many more requests, I'm afraid of, that may happen within the city structure. Now, we have control over hours unless there's specific hours in that contract when they start. Is that not correct? As long as you don't force them over an 8-hour day? Is that correct, Britt, or am I wrong on that?
Of course.
So why do we actually can't we let her go home a half hour earlier in the day than putting this $440 a month additional into our payroll, because this is $110 per week. And I'm just concerned that we're going to have other requests as time goes on with this if we don't control it at this point in time. I have nothing against the work that Mary does. She does wonderful work. But I don't think we need to start a precedent. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is an isolated anomaly within our city structure. And, I don't have any problem with it. Counselor Freely.
I would move to approve the letter of understanding. I understand where Charlie's from, but I guess I look at it as it may be closing a can of worms, to be honest with you. I mean, it's been going for 17 years-ish, and it's removing the overtime aspect of that. I had the opportunity, Charlie, to talk to the supervisor who told me about the value of having Mary there that half hour early. Your suggestion is certainly well-founded to have somebody leave a half hour early to save that money. But I think we are saving money anyhow by removing that overtime aspect of it, and the value that Mary has provided to Ed and others, I think is worthy of the cost that's being incurred, which is certainly less than it has been for the last 17 years. So I would move that we go ahead and approve that letter of understanding.
Okay, move to approve the letter of understanding by Counselor Freely. Is there support for that?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Bearable.
Yeah, I just have one interesting point here. Mary's start of the day is early. That's because she coordinates all of that. But is she needed at the Miners Memorial Complex with her afternoon duties, the full time there? And I would ask Brian, is she needed there, or can she go home a half hour earlier? Because that's her split day. She starts in Public Works in the morning, and then she goes to I think about 11 in the morning, somewhere in there.
Brian, would you come forward and answer? Thank you for the
Yeah,
general
I'm
public.
sorry, Mayor.
And answer Counselor Bearble's question.
Because I'm not sure exactly what time she comes to your
Brian.
facility.
Normally, she leaves Public Works and gets to the miners around 8 o'clock in the morning, and she does Public Works duties from the miners' desk. Public Works phones are transferred to the miners, so she's able to answer any of the Public Work phone calls while she is at the miners. From a park and recreation standpoint, we will work with the city and we will make do with whatever direction we need to go, whether it's she's there until 3 or 2:30 or 3:30. So,
And the
have
reason, Brian, I'm asking that question, because normally the work schedule of Public Works is, unless there's a lot of snow and other things, that ends at what, 3:30, I believe?
Yes.
So, you know, the adjustment, I'm just talking about adjustment hours. I'm just really concerned about precedent. That's my concern. I don't have anything against Mary's work. Please understand that. She's been a wonderful employee, and I've been here as long as she's been an employee. So I'm not going to vote against this, I'll be honest with you. But I just wanted to bring that up for future discussions and making sure this is a one-time individual.
Mary does a tremendous job of
Oh, I know,
public
I know.
outreach and
I know that.
communicating with the public as far as what our public works crew and what our parks crews are doing that day. So if somebody calls and says, why is there a backhoe down the street from my house? She's able to let them know. And that's why Public Works wants her to be at these team leader meetings every day.
I'm going to ask one more question, I'm done, Mayor.
Yes, Counselor Bearable.
Is that Public Works phone then, is it switched to your offices then? Because that's been an issue that they can say they can't get a hold of anybody in Public Works. Has that been automated back to yours or not when there's questions come up during the rest of the day? Because I don't think that's published anyplace where she is.
When she
except that number.
leaves Public Works, she does transfer the phones to the miners. Now, we've been working on the system so that if somebody's calling to speak to the Public Works director, they can hit a button to leave Mr. Alto a message. Right now, when the phone gets transferred to the miners, you have a series of 3 options that you can choose. You can talk to the front desk, you can hear a list of events, or you can talk to the director. So I end up getting a bunch of messages that are left for Ed, which I just forward on to Ed.
It sounds like we need to do something with that system.
And we're
to
working
make-
on that,
to
we're
make-
tweaking that
To
system.
make Mary's job more efficient is all I'm saying. And so you don't catch all those calls either. Okay, I'm not going to oppose this, so don't get me wrong. And I'll talk to Mary afterwards to let her know what my position was, so.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion, we have one. Thank you, Brian. You're good? Okay, no further discussion. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the approved scope of work from Flaherty and Hood for Northern Heights Environmental Project. And I'm bringing to this you kind of cold, actually. As our Northern Heights project, we're working with the MPCA, and we're now trying to still back off the EPA from the Northern Heights MPCA investigation. We are going to need money for the potential cleanup process, so we are probably going to need legislative support for some money for any future cleanup. So I was speaking with Flaherty and Hood, those are our attorneys for the MPCA Northern Heights investigation, and they suggested that if we wanted to pay for a lobbyist from their agency to try to seek funding for us for the Northern Heights cleanup, it would be about $15,000.
Thank you. A couple of questions, and I think maybe a couple comments first. This is, well, I'll wait until I'm done. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question. Is this in the scope of Ron Jarek's, what we're currently paying our current lobbyist? Is this within his scope or purview?
I don't know that the Jareks know a lot of environmental issues, whereas Flaherty and Hood, that's what they deal with is environmental issues. So it's a little bit of a different subject.
And to make a comment that I think that's a good question that you ask. I know that our lobbyist that we hired on staff has been in the loop on this EPA thing, is aware of it, is educated on it, understands it, and can be an asset moving forward in lobbying for funding for this. I know that he's been in contact with Representative Lizagard. We've had meetings with him as well as Senator Tomassoni about this matter. It's unfortunate that this has come to the point where the city is now taking on an expense and liability with respect to this issue. It's been ongoing for a long period of time. I think, with all due respect, I'm going to publicly say this. I think the EPA, Minnesota EPA, has been remiss in making adjustments with respect to this process by passing it on to the EPA. It created a a lot of work for us. It created additional expenditures for us. We had to hire Flattery Hood as a result of this, and I really believe that it took a lot of lobbying and a lot of meetings back and forth. Britt and I went down, and on many occasions, about why this has now become a major issue and why the Minnesota EPA pushed this up to the federal EPA. And all it had to do with was really, for the most part, if you peel away the onion, is their ability to fund the cleanup costs. The state didn't want to didn't have the money, didn't want to use, but I figured the federal EPA would have that money. But noting the fact that when it gets bumped up there, it becomes a federal EPA issue, which creates a no kind of worms. And in any decisions made by the EPA, federal EPA, and all mandates by the federal EPA, it's a cost, whatever their cleanup costs are, they come back to the city saying, you have to pay this. So we have to find a way in which to keep it within the state of Minnesota. We've been successful, thank you, Britt, for doing that with Flattering and Hood, correct? And we're not done yet.
Close to done yet.
We're not even close to done. We're still working on that. So the recommendations you have is we also use Flattery and Hood moving forward. They have an environmentalist person on staff to do this. I know that our lobbyist, Ron Jarrett, gave us another name of an environmental attorney that would give advice for us, at least in the initial stages, and work with Flattery and Hood at no cost to us, but at the same time, this is a very serious matter, and we need somebody that has environmental experience, and I think the full weight and knowledge of Flattery and Hood on this particular matter statewide could be useful. Am I making that statement correctly, Britt?
Flaherty and Hood is is the coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities Attorneys, and they are very much in the forefront of environmental action with the legislature.
And we're going to be seeking some reimbursement in some way through some legislative action and others, correct? Thank you. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I guess I have one other question regarding, is there any shared liability was that mining reclamation land, and was it gifted or given or purchased to the city of Virginia? And if so, is there any shared liability or shared responsibility?
Sorting through that.
It's not a mine reclamation. They haven't declared that a mine reclamation project, although working with the IRRB and Mark Phillips, we're working.
Yeah, it's not a
It's not a mine reclamation project right now.
still working on responsible party and
Right.
So I think that would kind of help me decide in terms of moving forward with the lobbyist and the financing. or the-
either way, our name's on the title, so we are responsible in some way, shape, or form. It's just how much are we responsible, and we wouldn't have the funds, so we're going to need help from the legislature to pay for this. So this is why basically our push, going to be our push to the legislature. Can you please help if we are found, in fact, that we need to do something? We are still in the stance that there is nothing there, that we don't know. We've never investigated to the point that the EPA wants us to.
So it would be above and beyond the initial 15,000 for the lobbyist, anything that was slated to be corrective action or have corrective action taken?
Correct.
And there's still additional.
There's still funds coming, yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Bearable.
Yeah, this one really has angst with me, because way back when we did that Northern Heights edition, they knew that this leaching was occurring, and nobody knows. Does anybody know yet what actually it is? From what I've heard, it's naturally occurring.
We don't know.
So
We just got approval
this could be what
to
my
start
concern.
investigating.
What my concern is, they knew about this, the MPCA did a long, long time ago, what was coming out of there. Never pushed on it, never did anything about it. I think they are as liable for this particular entity as the city of Virginia, which I'm concerned this could be a never-ending 100-year process if it's a naturally occurring leaching of something that's actually naturally occurring in the earth around that mine dump. I think we need to go after the state. And that's my personal opinion, because they were negligent, as far as I'm concerned, when this originally occurred. And they didn't do anything, didn't force the city to look at it, let it go. It's not a big area.
Need to be careful what we speak, because we are still actively working with our attorneys on this, so we have to be careful.
Well, I would have liked to have had the attorneys in a closed meeting come up here and told us a few things of what we actually have in the process.
We haven't even got that far yet. That's how long this is taking, is we just submitted our plan for what we want to do to start investigation from MPCA, and we have not got approval yet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why do we need to do any investigation when they're negligent? From my opinion, I'm going to
Have to
put
do
it that way.
investigation, yes, and
I'm going
that's,
to put it in, so I'm responsible for what I'm saying, not as a representative of the city. But I've been there since that was originally done, and we did that Northern Heights edition, and that was there then. And is it affecting any homes that I know of? I don't. Yeah, okay. I'll shut up then, but that's my personal opinion. Okay, thank you.
Just to say, we've been identified as the responsible party.
no,
We have not.
we are trying to
Trying
determine
to determine that,
responsible
who the
party.
responsible party
That,
is.
that's where I was going with this, Mayor.
We've just been
'cause-
served with a request for information from MPCA, so we have to submit everything we have on this process so that they can start to determine who is responsible.
I think that's the end of this conversation moving forward.
On that particular, the
that-
lobbyist portion,
Yeah.
I just foresee, because of the way this is going, it's a very long process, and the session is starting very, very soon, that if we want to get any money from the legislature this year for potential that we might need, we need to have somebody advocating for funds on our behalf.
Yeah, well, thank you, Britt. Counselor Bearable?
Mayor, I have no problem with going with the particular firm from Flannery and that outfit with this lobbyist, so I
And we're
don't
gonna
have
hope
a
to,
problem.
and we're gonna hope to try to recover some of those costs moving forward, so we'll see how it goes, but, all right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? I know this is not a lot of information, but I'm assuming we're gonna get some more moving forward. Thank you.
Talks are still continuing almost daily with MPCA and the EPA.
Yeah, thank you. Counselor Freely?
Mayor, I'm wondering if anybody knows if the Lawrence Solberg, who's the independent contractor, is the Lawrence Solberg that served as a representative to the West Range?
It is.
But that's beneficial to us as well, noticing that name in terms of lobbying efforts and the network that he is a part of. That sways me in the direction of moving forward.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. What you're asking for us today, Britt, is to,
Approval to contract with Flaherty and Hood in the amount of $15,000 for a lobbyist for this environmental concern,
okay, up to $15,000.
up to $15,000.
Also move, Mayor.
Okay, it's moved by Counselor Bearable. Is there support? Support by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, as I swallow my Adam's apple. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is review the agreement between Essentia Health and City of Virginia for purchase of real property in Virginia. And this portion of the meeting may be closed if council so chooses so per Minnesota Statute 13D05 Subdivision 3.
I'll move to close this portion of the meeting for the confidential information from Essentia Health Contract Review.
Okay, there's a motion by Counselor Bearable to close the city council meeting for discussion with respect to the Essentia Hospital contract review between Essentia Health and the City of Virginia. Is there support?
Support.
The support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed.